जय श्री राधे श्री वल्लभाधीश की जय। सभी वैष्णवों को जय श्री कृष्ण। Today is the 16th day of our Brajbhasha and English Shaurasi Vaishnava ki Varta readings, and today is Varta 6, the story of Seth Purushottam Das, a resident of Varanasi. Bhav Prakash, inner meanings. Seth Purushottam Das was an acquaintance of Damodar Das Sambalwari. When Damodar Das went to Varanasi in the attempt to find someone to read his copper letter, he had met Sethji on the latter, and the latter became desirous of meeting Sri Acharyaji. On his first Holy Grace pilgrimage, Sri Acharyaji had been to Varanasi, and that is when Seth Purushottam Das had his site on the Manikarnika Ghat at the banks of the Sri Gangaji river. At that time he asked whether this was the same Sri Acharyaji who had defeated all the impersonalist Brahmins in the court of the southern king Krishnadev. Krishnadas confirmed that they were one and the same. Seth Purushottam Das then bowed low before Sri Acharyaji and begged him to accept him as a disciple. He also asked him to visit his home and thus purify it. Sri Acharyaji was impressed by his humility and went to his house. He initiated Sethji, his daughter Rukmini, and his son Gopal Das with first the Lord's name and then with the Brahma Sambandh. Thereafter Sethji asked to explain his duties from now on. Sri Acharyaji told him to serve the Lord according to the ways of the path of grace. There was a deity of the Lord named Madan Mohanji hidden at Sethji's house. Sethji had 15,000 rupees with which he decided to build a house. Sri Thakurji appeared whilst they were digging the foundations along with an enormous amount of money. Sethji's father served this deity for some days and left his body. After this, Sethji also worshipped his deity and meanwhile became very rich. Then Sri Acharyaji bathed Sri Madan Mohanji with the 5 nectars, Panchamrit Snan, and established his worship, which he handed over to Seth Purushottam Das. In the eternal Leela, Seth Purushottam Das is a Sakhi of Sri Swaminiji named Indulekha. Sethji's daughter is Indulekhaji's Sakhi called Modari. Sethji's son is also Indulekha's Sakhi named Ganaka. Sethji served Sri Madan Mohanji most opulently. He would daily offer 52 types of bida or fragrant palm leaves with herbs and spices wrapped in them. In the eternal Leela, it was Indulekha's Seva to prepare and offer such bidas, 24 Sri Thakurji and 32 for Sri Swaminiji. Sri Thakurji likes faith. The 20 bida represent complete loyalty. Sri Swaminiji likes ornaments. There are 16 modes of adornment, so between the two of them there were 32, thus the 32 bida. In this way the offering pleased them both. Sethji did all his seva in this kind of heartfelt loving devotion, including food preparations, adornments and clothes. Sethji's seva mood went beyond Sri Thakurji, Sri Madan Mohanji, to Sri Acharyaji. Sri Acharyaji therefore granted him the sight of Sri Thakurji's 2 dark lotus feet. Sri Madan Mohanji's form was fair like Sri Acharyaji, hence Sri Swaminiji, but his feet are dark-coloured, like Sri Krishna. In the Leela, Sri Thakurji is dedicated to Sri Swamiji's lotus feet. In this way he served Sri Acharyaji through his seva to Sri Thakurji. In this way, Sri Acharyaji always graced Seth Purushottam Das. Sri Acharyaji bathed Sri Madan Mohanji in the 5 nectars and then gave him to Sethji for seva. Part 1. Sethji never went to have the holy sight or darshan of Vishweshwara Mahadev, the main deity and king of Varanasi. But one day he appeared in a dream to Sethji and told him, "Even if you do not hold this place as important, please do honour this Vaishnava who lives here. Please bring me some of your Sri Thakurji's prasad from time to time." The next morning, after finishing his seva, Sethji went to Mahadevji's temple and took him a packet of prasad. Everyone there was surprised to see Setji and wondered why he had come that day unusually. He had a few people with him and simply left the prasad with Mahadev and then left whilst making the same kind of gesture and greeting with which he greeted any Vaishnava, Jai Shri Krishna. The priest of the temple asked him, "Why did you not bow down to Mahadevji as you left? It is not appropriate for you to greet him in this way." Setji replied that Jai Shri Krishna was the way that they greeted each other, and that if they didn't believe him, they should ask Mahadevji about it. Those Brahmins were close servants of Mahadevji, and so he told them that he had asked Setji to bring the prasad, and that they normally use that kind of greeting between themselves. He told them never to reprimand Setji again. Setji always took Mahadevji prasad whenever there had been some special festival preparations. Bhav Prakash. A lot of Setji's followers only followed him for the sake of financial comfort. Mahadevji reasoned that if they all stuck to Setji, then they would not come to him, and he would not be able to solve the problem. He had been asked by the Lord to turn those souls away because they were not at all able to grasp the type of devotional attitude that Setji had. So Mahadevji thought that if Setji comes to bring me the Mahaprasad, then they will all follow. And if anyone asked them why, then they could all say that if Setji went, then so could they. Mahadevji is a great Vaishnava, and all of those wealth seekers then just lost faith and turned away from the Lord. They did not understand that it was the Lord's wish for Setji to thus go to Mahadevji's temple, and when Setji's children did not go, they reasoned that if they did not go, then they would also not go. After all, none of them were qualified to receive the best reward, Sri Thakurji, and that is why Setji went alone. Part 2. One day Mahadevji asked Kalabhairav, the demigod protector of Varanasi, to keep watch over Setji's house, for he often came and went and no one was in. Kalabhairav did just that. One night when returning from a meeting with some Vaishnavas, Setji noticed someone standing at his door. He asked him who he was, and Kalabhairav replied that Mahadevji had sent him to look after his house. Setji said nothing and went inside. Bhav Prakash. This tale demonstrates what a great and graced Vaishnava Setji was, but that he also sought the company of other Vaishnavas. It is very important to keep company with Vaishnavas. Sri Acharya has written, Poshaka bhavetu shitilam. Bhav can become cold if not nourished. The mind can become stagnant if not nourished or stimulated, and devotion can diminish. Satsang provides that motivation. Mahadevji set up Kalabhairav as Setji's protector because there were many ghosts, swindlers and thieves in Varanasi. Mahadevji's thought was that the Lord had set him up as the king of Varanasi, so it was his responsibility to ensure that nothing happened to the great devotees, otherwise he would have to answer to him. Setji brought Mahadevji the prasad, but took nothing in return, so he felt this was the least he could do for him. Mahadevji put the full responsibility and liability onto Kalabhairav alone. Part 3. Once a Brahmin came from the south to Varanasi. His practice was to not eat before he had had the holy sight of his beloved Mahadevji. On one Janmashtami day, the festival to celebrate Sri Krishna's appearance, Setji had set up a huge tent at his home for the celebrations. Mahadevji also went there to celebrate. He stayed over to the next day too, and went back in the afternoon. The Brahmin asked him where he had been for the last 2 days, for he had been missing him. Mahadevji told him that he had gone to State Purushottam Dasji's house to celebrate the appearance day of Sri Krishna. The Brahmin wondered, what kind of Setji is this to whose house you go? Mahadevji replied, he is a great devotee, much better than I am. Bhav Prakash. His implication was that Seth Purushottam Dasji was a great devotee of the path of grace, whereas he was on the path of worship, with lawful limitations. Maryada Marga. Part 3 continued. The Brahmin then prayed to Mahadevji, can you make me into such a devotee? Mahadevji told him to go and become a disciple of Setji, inasmuch as he could give him the first level of initiation with the permission of Sri Acharyaji. The Brahmin asked Mahadevji himself to teach him the mantra, but the latter refused, saying that even if he did, the mantra would not bear fruit. Bhav Prakash. Mahadevji was informing him that if he gave the mantra, his level would remain within the path of lawful limitations, so therefore he should seek initiation from a follower of the path of grace. Part 3 continued. The Brahmin then turned up at Setji's door. When Setji was told that he had come, he remarked that he must have come just to get inside his head. Bhav Prakash. This wasn't because the Brahmin was a devotee of Mahadev, and Setji reasoned that even if he took the first initiation by hearing the name of the Lord and surrendering to it, it would take a very, very long time for his faith to develop and become firm. Part 3 continued. Setji then finished his seva and came outside. The Brahmin bowed down to him in full prostration. Setji asked him why he was acting in this wrong way, because it was not correct for a Brahmin to bow to a Kshatriya. The Brahmin replied with his supplication for Setji to give him the name initiation and let him be his disciple. Setji denied that he ever initiated anybody, nor ever made anyone his disciple. The meaning of this is that it was not himself who gave the name initiation, nor made disciples, but Sri Mahaprabhuji only. The Brahmin failed to comprehend this fact. The Brahmin insisted in many ways, but Setji did not budge from his decision. The Brahmin then even went to Mahadevji and complained about this. Mahadevji told the Brahmin to go back to Setji and tell him that he had been sent by Mahadev himself and did not intend to go away empty-handed. The Brahmin again approached Setji and told him this. Bhav Prakash. Mahadevji's insistence revealed the Brahmin's status as a Pushti Jeev, and so he needed to hear the Lord's name, as in the first initiation of the path. Part 3 continued. Setji initiated him and then greeted him with folded hands and Jai Shri Krishna. The Brahmin was confused and wanted to know why Setji had initiated him, but then greeted him like an equal. Setji explained, I only give this name initiation under Sri Acharyaji's command. We both have the same guru, and that is Sri Acharyaji. When Sri Acharyaji comes here again, you should retake the initiation from him personally. We greet each other as Vaishnavas do. Sometime later, that Brahmin went to Adel and asked Sri Acharyaji for the initiation, which he gave. He spent a few days there and then returned to the south, where he lived the appropriate life for a Vaishnava. Bhav Prakash. This story reveals the greatness of the path of grace. Even Mahadevji would come to Setji's house to celebrate Sri Krishna's appearance day. This path has been established by Sri Acharyaji. In the Vallabhakhyan, Gopal Dasji has sung, this path arises through the grace of Sri Acharyaji. Even Brahma and Shiva cannot enter here. The Leelas revealed in Setji's home are those of the Saraswat Kalp, where Sri Krishna's manifestation is the full Purushottam. Those Leelas that could be revealed by Mahadevji were of another Kalpa, where Sri Krishna's manifestation was partial. For Pushti Vaishnavas on Sri Acharyaji's path of grace, the realization of Sri Thakurji is Sri Krishna in full manifestation. Followers of other paths do not have this sight nor perception. That is why Mahadevji recommended that the Brahmin get initiated by Setji if he wanted to enter the path of grace. Shiva Labha Disha Ki Jai. Jai Shri Krishna. Jai Shri Radhe. Jai Jai Shri Radhe. Thus concludes for today the 16th reading, and tomorrow we will recommence with part 4 of the story of Seth Purushottam Das. Jai Shri Krishna.